as promised, we are going to take you right now to Colorado. The Aspen Institute's Ideas Festival is underway. It is in its 5th year, and the festival brings together some of the brightest minds in both the public and private sectors. Bloomberg's Eric Schatzker is there with a special guest.
It may have been in the Times that op-ed.
Deirdre, thank you very much. As you can see, things are improving quite a bit weather-wise here, and Felix Rohatyn and I are beginning to enjoy the temperatures as they warm up. Felix, folks, you may know, the man credited with saving New York City from bankruptcy, preeminent investment banker on Wall Street well into the 1990s, and a man with some strong views on the financial crisis and what we may or may not have learned. Felix, let's start with this question for you. You wrote in this weekend's International Herald Tribune that while you're a capitalist, you've got serious concerns about capitalism. Why?
Well, because of everything that's happened are things that shouldn't happen. I mean, this wild speculation and sort of more or less gambling that was taking place on Wall Street, and the failures to disclose that a lot of people got hurt badly. Capitalism should enable people to invest in the future. But we've turned it into a system where people speculate in the present. And that's not what should happen, because the risks are too great. And then you have people who've been saving money for 10, 20, 30 years, and all of a sudden it's gone.
Well, you worked at Lazard at a time when investment bankers effectively put their own capital at risk.
That's right.
Today you could make the argument that they're not just putting shareholders' money at risk, but effectively putting taxpayers' money at risk. Is that what's wrong with this system?
Well, that's what's happened, is that the taxpayers' monies have gone into saving some of these banks and institutions that clearly gambled with not only their capital, but the public's capital. And that is not the way the system should work.
Well, you say it's getting a little late in the game to fix this situation. Question for you, is it still fixable? And if so, what do we need to do to put things right?
Well, I don't think it's ever too late to fix something. But it may be very expensive, and it may take a long time. And it may take other issues. It may take different types of legislation or regulation, especially regulation.
Do you think the Obama administration is going far enough with the current proposed reform of financial services?
Look, you can always say it's not enough, but there's a very good start what they've done, and they can adjust it as time goes on, as they see what works and what doesn't work. So I think that they've had to work under enormous pressures.
For the past few months, we've heard people on Wall Street, executives, complain about caps on pay, government intrusions of other sorts, saying that they just can't compete against foreign banks with hedge funds under those kinds of constraints. Based on your experience and your knowledge, are those grumblings justified?
Well, there's always, in people's minds, there's always too much regulation, there's too much legislation. There is always the fact that foreign competition is destructive. I think that they've got a very good start on a very, very complicated issue. And let's see what happens as we go along.
You hearken from what one might call a bygone era on Wall Street, even though it wasn't that long ago. If there's a message, not a lecture, but a message that you could deliver to the people running those firms right now, what would it be?
I would think the most important thing to help protect people's savings is disclosure. I mean, if you're running assets, if you're managing money for clients, for widows, it's really the most important thing is for them to know what it is they're investing in, and not to wake up one day and find out that there's been a big explosion on the stock exchange. So the issue of disclosure is very, very important. And that goes with the issues of regulation and legislation. And at the same time, the issue of ethics. I mean, I've always felt that financial markets reflected a culture. And when I came to the United States, I thought it was clear that it reflected a Protestant ethic, a truthfulness, and a desire to move up on the scale of savings and leaving something for your children, etc. And now it's just gone completely wild with these enormous structures and very vague disclosure as to what is really in there.
All right, Felix Rohatyn effectively telling us that sunshine is the best disinfectant. That is Felix Rohatyn, former managing director at Lazard, former U.S. ambassador to France, currently watching Wall Street from a bit of a distance. But as you can see, his views and his viewpoints still very much intact, very much influential. Again, we'll be back. Deirdre, I'm going to hand it back to you for the time being.
All right, Eric, thanks very much.